Tenants and toilets. These are the two biggest fears that real estate investors have. Today we're going to talk about tenants and non-payment of rent.
We're the investor couple. I'm Mel.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the investor couple. And you're watching Real Estate 101. On this channel, we teach real people just like you the secrets to time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom through real estate investing.
We make sure to post a new video for you every Thursday, so make sure to subscribe.
Yes, and hit the bell to be notified. As a real estate investor, having a tenant not pay rent is always a huge concern.
When I first met Mel, non-payment of rent was one of my biggest fears and held me back a while from investing in real estate.
I remember that.
So don't do like me. Watch the video in the entirety and you'll understand that non-payment of rent is not the end of the world. Mel and I currently own over 200 units, and we're here to tell you that over 90% of tenants usually pay on time. So I want you to squash that worry. However, there are some tenants that won't pay rent, and in this video, we'll show you a nice, moral, legal way of approaching it in order to get tenants to pay rent. Hey Dave, I won't be able to pay my rent this month. What?
Now, why would a tenant not pay rent? Well, let's face it, sometimes life happens. Perhaps somebody lost their jobs and financially they just can't afford it anymore.
In Mel and I's 19 plus years of real estate investing, we came up with a rule, and it's the 97% rule, which means 97% of our tenants pay on time and pay regularly. The other 3%, not so much.
Yes, now take that into consideration. The majority of the tenants are awesome. They're paying rent. It's not an issue. So here are a couple of our own real life examples.
The first one that comes to mind, I remember, it was a lady and she called us crying. She was devastated that she was going to be late on rent because, unfortunately, I think her dog had been run over by a vehicle and she had thousands of dollars in veterinary bills. We obviously worked with her. She was a great tenant, but again, she was late on rent because of this unforeseen circumstances.
Sometimes it's some of our tenants who are on social assistance whose check may simply be running late, so they haven't received it yet. So having that communication piece with the tenant is so important.
And that's something that's completely out of their control.
And sometimes, well, some tenants are spending money elsewhere. They're buying large TV screens and just deciding not to pay us.
Here are 3 strategies on how we tackle this.
Let's start off by discussing how to avoid these kind of situations in the first place.
Let's discuss the tenants that are already paying on time, and how to keep it this way.
Yes, and don't worry, stay right till the end because we're going to be discussing how to deal with those bad tenants that choose not to pay. Now, here are 3 tips on how to keep your good tenants paying. Incentives. Now, work in your incentives to make a win-win with your tenant. For example, if a tenant pays early every single month, maybe you give them $20 off for doing so. And if they are willing to pay 1 full year in advance, maybe you give them half a month off as well. VIP. Have a VIP incentive for them. We found this worked really well. So what kind of VIP could you do? Here's one example that we used. So for our good tenants only, we would give them first privilege. What this meant, if we had another unit that they wanted to move into, as long as they paid rent early, took care of the property, they would have VIP privilege. So they would have the first right of refusal. Also, we also had VIP discounts. So we worked with various organizations, restaurants in town, and they would receive a special discount if they were one of our VIP tenants. A little gift. Now this can be something as simple as giving them a bottle of wine or a gift card for their birthday. Or for example, when we have some of our tenants with newborns, we love giving them, as long as they're good tenants, we love giving them a little gift as well.
So these are easy ways to continue your good paying tenants paying rent on time every month. For you.
Now let's talk about when a tenant is going to be late for rent, but at least has the decency to tell you about it.
A perfect example of this, and we get it pretty much every month, is construction workers. Let's say, for example, the first of the month falls on the Monday, and one of our tenants is a construction worker, and they get paid every Friday. They will let us know, Mal, Dave, I'm going to be paying rent. It's going to be coming in on Friday. I apologize for being late, but it's just the way that my pay is structured. I can't change it, but I will pay you as soon as it comes in. This is an easy, no-brainer way. They have continued to pay, they pay every month, but they're letting you know, I'm gonna be a few days late. Work with your tenants. That little inch that you give them will go a mile.
Yes, and make sure to thank them as well. Thank you so much for letting me know. We're gonna work with you. And what we also like to do is that we will say we do have procedures. We will, however, still give you the proper forms for non-payment of rent, but please know as soon as it's paid, you can rip it off.
So another example of this is, let's say someone says, Mel, Dave, I'm gonna be 2 weeks late on rent. Okay, that's fair. Again, they're coming to you, they're having the conversation, they're being upfront and honest. You wanna cherish the fact that they've told you, okay? Now work with them, come up with some sort of written agreement that is realistic for yourself and for them. You don't wanna set them up for failure, and you also don't wanna take a very, very minimal payment that they'll never repay back the full amount. But come up with something that works for the two of you, sign it, and follow that to the T.
Now this is a business, so forgiving rent in its totality, I do not recommend it. You are in real estate in order to make money. The same way that if you go to Walmart and shop, you are expected to pay for your products. This is the same thing with rent. Doesn't mean you can't work with them, but also don't just forgive it completely, because at the end of the day, if the word gets around that, hey, my landlord pays my rent, guess what's gonna happen?
Ah, phew. Thank you so much for understanding. I will pay you, it's just gonna be a little late. Ah, phew. Thank you so much for communicating with me and letting me know. All good.
Now let's talk about worst case scenarios and how we handled it. But first, let's share a couple stories so you know how to deal with them when you come across it.
The first one that comes to mind is the midnight move. And what I mean by this is the first of the month rolls around, you don't receive rent, you try and communicate with them, you hear nothing back, days go by, still no rent, still no communication. What do you do? So when this happened to us, first thing we did was texted them on the 2nd of the month. Just a reminder, where's the rent payment? And we heard nothing back.
Crickets.
So I thought something's up, because that wasn't like them. And the next thing you know, we put a notice of non-payment of rent on their door, in their mailbox, still nothing. We contacted the other tenants in the building, asked them, hey, have you seen so-and-so? They said no. We thought, this is very strange.
Yes, so then we thought we better go in and check what's happening. And that's exactly what we did. We went to the property, knocked on the door, kind of looked inside a little bit. Empty. They moved out.
And that's what you call the midnight move, where on, let's say the 30th of the month, they live there, and the next thing you know, they are gone.
Yes, now if you have those good tenants, the nice thing about having good tenants and those incentives that we talked about earlier, quite often we've had them contact us saying, did you know so-and-so moved out of your property? So this can all be avoided as well.
And don't be afraid to give them a reward for that. That way everyone knows if you see someone doing the midnight move, call us and we'll have, let's say, a $25 or a $50 gift card for you. This keeps other tenants accountable and it helps you manage your rentals.
Yes, think bigger picture. If you knew a week or two sooner that they moved out middle of the night, you could have rented that property for the month. That's a lot of money in your pockets, right? So always be proactive with that. Treat your good tenants very, very well, so that way they're gonna pay for it as well. Dave, it's rent day.
Already? Dave's not here, man. So what could you do in this situation? If you have a tenant that A, stops paying rent, and B, stops communicating with you, what are your tactics? What are your strategies? What are your next steps?
We're gonna break it down for you in this list.
First things first, try and get in contact with them every way possible. What I mean by this, text them, call them, leave them a voicemail, send them an email, put a letter in their mailbox, put a letter on their door. Do everything possible to see if you can get in contact with them. Number 2, look at the paperwork that they initially filled out. Make sure you have the right telephone numbers, the right email addresses, or if they have a next of kin, or if they put parent information, roommate information, friend information, try and contact that person to let them know that A, you're looking for them, and B, you want to work something out with them. Number 3, if they still don't get back to you, you need to do your due diligence as a real estate investor. Serve them the appropriate paperwork for non-payment of rent. You need to get that ball rolling. Number 4, maybe they moved out. Now you need to verify with the different landlord and tenant regulations and rules for different provinces, different states, different municipalities. Do your due diligence. Serve them the appropriate paperwork, the 24 hours notice, the 48 hours notice, whatever applies there to walk into your unit. They might have moved out. They might have abandoned the unit. You won't know till you actually go through it. And number 5, have policies in place, have procedures in place for this exact scenario, and make sure you follow through with it. Non-payment of rent is a non-negotiable, okay? You need to, like I said, serve them the paper and go through with it. And unfortunately, it's a part of real estate investing that no real estate investor wants to go through, but such is life.
Exactly, such is life. It's going to happen, but minimize the amount of times that it does happen by having these types of strategies.
Now, you might not have to deal with this. If you've hired a property management company, they will do this for you. Now, make sure when picking that property management company, they have experience with dealing in non-payment of rent issues. Another aspect of it is if you are dealing with yourself, maybe you hire some sort of legal representative to deal with all of this for you. But again, you cannot swipe this under the rug. You have to take care of this.
Mindset and expectations.
Yes, after seeing the steps that we take in order to either prevent or collect rent, I want you as a real estate investor to have a realistic mindset and expectations. So let's dive in. What do we mean by this? You're dealing with people, right? Whenever you're dealing with other human beings, you have to expect there to be conflict. Now, with every conflict, there can be resolution. Now, we don't want this to stop you from buying income properties, getting cash flow, and fulfilling the dreams that you want achieved through real estate investing.
So going in, just know that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Take Walmart, for example. They have theft in their departments, of course. It's part of their calculations. It doesn't mean they're gonna close doors. It means that they try to prevent it from happening as much as possible, and it's also part of their calculations. Real estate is no different. Are you gonna have one tenant throughout the years that doesn't pay rent? Yes. Does that mean that you shouldn't buy properties? No. And for more real estate investing tips, make sure to check out this next video. I'm Mel.
And I'm Dave, and we'll see you there.